My name's Silas Walker. I'm 60 years old, born and raised in Atlanta. 5 weeks ago, I found out my son and his pretty little wife were plotting to make my death look like an accident, quite respectable and profitable. The story I'm about to tell you ain't fiction. It's how I learned that sometimes the sweetest revenge is just living long enough to tell it yourself. If you're hearing this, hit that like button, subscribe, and tell me down in the comments where you're listening from. I want to know how far this story of mine travels, how far revenge with mercy can reach. I knew something was wrong the second the kid stopped smiling. 1 minute he was bent over that cracked iPhone, humming low to the radio like it was any other Tuesday repair. The next his hands froze mid-air, eyes darting to me and then back to the screen like he'd just seen a ghost crawl out of the glass. "Everything all right, son?" I asked. My voice came out steady, the same tone I used back when folks would get rowdy on my bus route through Decatur. Calm always buys you time. He swallowed hard, didn't answer, just locked the screen, reached under the counter, and flipped the little open sign to closed. That's when the bottom of my stomach dropped. Javi Morales, 28, sweet kid. His daddy Raul used to ride my bus to work for 20 years until a heart attack took him in his sleep. I'd watched Javi grow up. He called me Mr. Silas like I was family, but now his face looked like he was standing in front of a loaded gun. He leaned close, voice barely a breath. "Mr. Silas, I need you to listen and not ask questions. Cancel your cards, change your passwords, and get out of your house. Today. Now." I blinked, thinking maybe he was joking. "You want to tell me what's going on before you start talking like some FBI agent?" He hesitated, then turned the phone toward me. And I swear the whole damn world stopped. On the screen was a folder titled Plan C. Inside it, a thread of messages. My son's name, Devin Walker, right there in bold blue bubbles, and his wife Sloan replying in gray, both talking like I wasn't their father or her father-in-law, but some problem that needed cleaning up. He's been forgetting names again. The doc already logged 2 incidents. Good. Keep it going. When it happens, no one will question it. The insurance cleared $1.5 million. I'll make sure Mom signs the update this week. We just need one small accident, babe. Peaceful, quick, like falling asleep. My fingers went cold. I couldn't breathe. My own boy, my blood, writing about my death like a grocery list. I read those words 3 times slow because I needed to be sure. Maybe it was a prank, some cruel joke, but the tone, the way they spoke it, was real. Devin's spelling quirks, Sloane's clipped punctuation. There was no mistake. "They planning to kill me," I heard myself say out loud. "Not just you, sir," Javi whispered. "They mentioned your wife, too, Elaine." My knees nearly buckled. Javi grabbed a stool for me, poured water from a bottle, and kept glancing toward the front door like the devil himself might walk in any second. "I shouldn't even be showing you this," he said, but when I fixed the screen, a notification popped from that folder. I looked just for a second and I couldn't unsee it. I didn't copy anything, didn't send it to myself, but I took screenshots for you. You need proof. My hands shook as I fumbled for my phone. "Send them to me." He did airdrop the whole thread. I stared at the messages, that string of quiet evil sitting in my palm. Devin and Sloan had even discussed timing, how the doctor would document cognitive decline, how memory issues could justify a fatal medication error. They even joked about selling the house once the paperwork clears. I thought about that house, the same one I painted myself the summer Devin left for college. The porch swing I built for Elaine. Every corner of it meant family, and now my own child was using it as a backdrop for murder. Javi's voice pulled me back. "You can't let them know you've seen this. Play dumb, but protect yourself. Change your accounts. Get help if you got someone you trust." He was right. I knew the streets knew how people move when money gets involved, but I never thought I'd have to outsmart my own flesh and blood. I stood up slow, made sure my legs were steady. "You didn't see me today, Javi." "Yes, sir. And if anyone asks, that phone never worked, you hear? You just replaced the glass and handed it back." No talk, no nothing. He nodded fast. "Understood." I handed him a $100 bill. He tried to refuse, but I pressed it into his palm. "That's not for the repair.
That's for your silence. You did right, son. He nodded again, eyes glassy. As I left, the chime above the door jingled like it always did, but this time the sound sliced right through me. Outside, the evening heat wrapped around my chest like a heavy coat. Atlanta air in July, thick, sticky, unforgiving. Cars rushed down Moreland Avenue, horns blaring the city alive in that way that made you forget how quickly life can turn dark. I walked to my old Buick parked at the curb and just sat there, engine off, staring through the windshield. My reflection looked back at me, a tired black man with creases carved by 40 years of hard work and holding things together. I'd driven thousands of folks through Atlanta, traffic, seen drunks, dealers, dreamers, and everything in between. But nothing prepared me for betrayal wearing my own son's face. My phone buzzed, Sloane's name lighting up. I didn't answer. A text followed. Hey Dad, thanks again for helping with my phone. You're a lifesaver. Can I swing by later to pick it up? I stared at that word. Lifesaver.
The irony nearly made me laugh, but I typed back steady, sure, swing by around 7. If they thought old Silas was slipping, they were in for a surprise. I'd spent decades reading faces in my rearview mirror, knowing when a man was lying before he even opened his mouth. You don't survive 40 years on the street without learning how to watch quiet. The phone buzzed again, a message from Javi. Restored the device. Looks untouched. Be careful, sir. I typed back a simple thank you, then slid the phone into my pocket. The world outside blurred through the windshield, neon signs, kids on bikes, a siren wailing somewhere distant. It all looked normal, but nothing was normal anymore. Somewhere between that repair shop and my driveway, my life had split in two, the man I was before those messages and the one sitting here now, a father about to outwit his own child to stay alive. I started the engine. The low rumble steadied me. Elaine would be home soon, probably making sweet tea, humming to Al Green on the kitchen radio.
I pictured her gentle hands, the silver in her hair. She deserved peace. She didn't deserve this nightmare. No, I wasn't gonna run. Not yet. If Devin and Sloane wanted to play a long game, I'd play it longer. But on my terms, quiet, careful. I'd gather proof, protect Elaine, and find out just how deep this sickness ran. Because you only get one chance to deal with snakes, and you make sure they never strike again. I pulled into the driveway just as the streetlights flickered on. From the porch, everything looked the same, flowers blooming, wind chimes dancing. But I saw it different now. This wasn't home, it was a stage, and the show was about to begin. At 7 sharp, I heard tires crunch on the gravel. A silver Lexus. Sloane's. I took a breath, adjusted my face into the easy smile every bus driver knows, the one that hides the truth but keeps the peace. She stepped out, graceful as always, phone in hand. Hey, Dad. Did it get fixed? Sure did, I said, handing her the phone like it was nothing more than glass and metal instead of the loaded gun it really was. She smiled too wide, too polished. You're the best. Just try not to drop it again, I said. Our eyes met for a second too long. I saw it then, that flicker of calculation behind her charm. She was good, but not good enough. When she drove off, taillights fading down the block, I finally exhaled. My phone buzzed once more. A text from Devin. Love you, Pops. We should do dinner soon. I looked at those words until the screen dimmed. Dinner. Yeah, we'd have dinner, but not the one he planned. Elaine was in the kitchen when I told her. Evening light spilled through the blinds, cutting gold stripes across her hands as she rinsed collard greens in the sink. The smell of garlic and vinegar hung in the air. It should have felt like home, it always did. But that night, everything in me wanted to run. Elaine, I said quietly, turn off the radio. She looked up, still smiling. What's wrong, Sai? I told her everything. No build-up, no soft landings. The phone, the folder, the messages. Her hands froze in the dishwater. The faucet kept running loud as a storm. When I finished, she didn't speak right away. She just shut off the tap and leaned against the counter, eyes distant but steady, the same way she used to look at teachers lying about test scores or parents blaming her for their child's failings. Elaine had that rare gift: when the world tried to break her, she got still instead. Finally, she said, then we move quiet. No tears, no panic, just that. And that's why I married her. We sat at the kitchen table not touching our food and started building a plan like two old soldiers. Elaine grabbed a yellow legal pad she never trusted phone notes and wrote in her neat cursive, "Step 1, lock everything." Within an hour, we'd frozen online, banking changed every password, and turned on alerts for every transaction over 200. Devin had joint access to one savings account for emergencies. I removed his name. That felt like cutting a lifeline, and it hurt, but it also felt like oxygen returning to my lungs. Elaine called the credit bureaus, her voice calm and official. "This is Mrs. Elaine Walker. I'd like a fraud alert placed on our profiles." I watched her proud and heartbroken at once. My wife shouldn't have to sound like a woman fighting ghosts. Next, she logged into our utility accounts. That's when we noticed small withdrawals, $35, $60 as $80, like mosquito bites we'd ignored. Traced back, they all funneled into some fintech service called NorthPay, linked to a burner Gmail we didn't recognize. Devin's. Had to be. He'd been bleeding us slow enough not to trigger suspicion. Elaine exhaled through her nose. "They've been testing the gate before the storm." "Yeah," I said. And now the storm's here. We spent hours documenting every transaction, taking photos of screens, printing statements. Elaine's teacher discipline never left her. She kept everything labeled, dated, cross-checked. By midnight, we had a folder thick enough to make a detective proud. Then she reached across the table and took my hand. Her palm was warm and dry. "See, we can't show fear. You know that. I know. Tomorrow when they come, we act normal, especially her. Sloane." That name burned like whiskey down my throat. Elaine stood, turned off the light, and rested her head on my shoulder. "They think we're old. They think we're slow. Let's let 'em." Morning came with the gray wash of Georgia humidity. I didn't sleep much. Every creak of the house sounded like footsteps. Elaine brewed coffee while I double-checked the locks and peeked through blinds like a man who'd seen too much news. At 9, I heard the gate squeal, "Ms." Ruth from next door shuffled over carrying a casserole pan wrapped in foil. "Morning, Silas," she sang out. "Made too much macaroni. You know how it is." Ms. Ruth was 74, retired nurse, church usher, neighborhood watch rolled into one woman. She knew everything that happened on this street, who came, who left, and what color car they drove. If God had security cameras, he'd have modeled them after Ruth Simmons. I opened the door, forced a smile. "You always make too much." She handed me the dish, eyes narrowing. "You look pale, Silas. You sick, just tired." Uh-huh. That uh-huh meant she didn't believe a damn word, but she didn't press. "Tell Elaine I'll see her Sunday. Oh, and that fancy Lexus came by last night. Your daughter-in-law, right?" Drove slow like she was sightseeing. My heartbeat thudded once heavy. "That's so, she circled twice," Ruth said. "Didn't stop, just circled." I thought maybe she lost something. I thanked her, promise to return the dish later. When she left, I shut the door and leaned against it. Elaine just looked at me, no words needed. The game had already started. We spent the day cleaning, pretending to live an ordinary life. Elaine ironed curtains that didn't need ironing. I mowed the lawn, though it was already neat. Every motion was for show in case Sloane was watching, and I was sure she was. At 6:30, the Lexus rolled up the driveway again. Silver paint, gleaming tinted windows hiding those eyes I'd learned to distrust overnight. She stepped out, all perfume and perfect posture. "Hey, Mom." "Dad," she called. "Sorry I missed y'all last night. Devin's been crazy busy." "How you feeling, Dad?" "Any dizziness?" "The doctor mentioned, Doctor," I interrupted gently. "What doctor now?" "Oh, the memory clinic," she said smoothly. "Devin said you'd started seeing them again for checkups." I smiled like a man listening to a bad joke. "Can't say I recall that, sweetheart." Her cheeks twitched just a fraction. Elaine stepped in, warm and polite. "You must have misheard, dear. Silas hasn't seen any doctor besides Dr. Chen, and she says he's sharp as ever." "Of course," Sloane said quickly. "Just checking in." I invited her inside, offered sweet tea. She declined, claimed she was on a cleanse. She glanced around like she was taking inventory: the kitchen, the medicine shelf, the framed photo of our anniversary. Predator eyes behind that designer smile. Then she pulled out her phone, the same one Javi had restored, and laughed lightly. This thing's good as new. Thanks again, Dad. You really saved me. Least I could do, I said, keeping my voice level. Glad it's working. A pause stretched between us, quiet but sharp. Then Sloane said, we should all do dinner tomorrow. Devin misses you both. Maybe I'll cook. Every instinct screamed no, but I kept my expression easy. Dinner sounds good, I said. But let's do it here, our place. Her eyebrows lifted just for a heartbeat. She hadn't expected that. Then she smiled wider. Perfect. She left soon after, heels clicking on the porch wood like a metronome counting down to something terrible. The moment her car disappeared, Elaine exhaled a sound halfway between a sigh and a curse. You saw her eyes, didn't you? I asked. Like a cat looking at a birdcage, Elaine said. She's planning something. Good, I said softly. So are we. That night we sat on the back porch with the lights off, listening to cicadas and distant traffic. Elaine sipped her tea, hands steady. I could feel her thinking, always 2 steps ahead. We talked quietly about who to trust, Dr. Chen, maybe Pastor Reggie. No police yet, not until we had something that couldn't vanish in a cloud of denial. Pastor Reggie had married us 40 years ago, back when I had more hair and fewer regrets. He'd spent a lifetime calming storms without raising his voice. If anyone could help us keep our heads straight, it was him. I'll call him tomorrow, I said. Ask him to pray with us. Elaine nodded. And Silas, yeah, when we sit at that dinner table tomorrow, don't flinch. Don't let them see fear. I looked out at the yard, at the soft pulse of fireflies, at the world that still looked peaceful. I won't, I said, but they will. Inside the house, our phones buzzed a message from Devin. See y'all tomorrow night. Let's make it special. Elaine looked at me over the rim of her cup. Special, she repeated. The word hung in the air like the first roll of thunder before a storm. By sunrise, the dread had hardened into purpose. When something inside you breaks clean, you stop shaking. You start cutting, quietly. Elaine poured my coffee without a word. I kissed her forehead, promised I'd be careful, and drove straight to Dr. Chen's office off Memorial Drive. 15 years I'd trusted that woman, from my first cholesterol scare to the busted knee that finally pushed me into retirement. She knew my heartbeat better than I did. The waiting room was the same as always, old magazines, soft jazz, a poster about flu shots. But I wasn't here for small talk. When the receptionist asked if I had an appointment, I told her no, I was here to request my full medical chart under HIPAA. Said it just like that, all calm and legal. She blinked, tapped a few keys. That might take a few days, Mr. Walker. I can wait. 15 minutes later, Dr. Chen herself opened the door. White coat, crisp eyes, wary. Silas, you okay? Not exactly, I said. We need to talk. Privately. She led me back to her office, closed the door, and waited. I handed her a copy of the texts Javi had sent me, not all of them, just enough to show the shape of the lie. She read them once, then again, slower, her face losing its color. My son, I said, he's been sending you reports. She exhaled long and troubled. Silas, he's contacted me a few times over the last 6 months. Said you'd had episodes of confusion, claimed you left the stove on, got lost driving. He insisted he was worried. I haven't burned toast, let alone the house, I said flatly. I know, but he was very convincing. I made brief notes as third-party reports, not diagnoses. That's why they're in your chart, under my name. She didn't argue, just opened her laptop and pulled up my file. I watched the words appear on the screen. Patient's son reports possible disorientation, recommends evaluation for early cognitive decline. A lie wearing a lab coat. I felt heat rise behind my ears. Doctor.
Chen, I need that removed.
I can't delete entries, she said carefully, but I can amend them. I'll document that the information was unverified and contradicted by today's exam. I'll run a cognitive screen right now, 15 minutes, quick and clean. Do it. She handed me a clipboard. The test was simple. Remember 5 words. Draw a clock, subtract by 7s. My mind was sharp as a razor. When she tallied the results, she gave a small nod. Perfect score, she said, scribbling an addendum. Cognitive function intact. Prior notes based on unverified collateral sources. Then she signed and dated it right there, her handwriting firm and clear. "You're doing the right thing, Silas," she said quietly. "If your son's exploiting your medical file, that's elder abuse. You should report it. Already planned to." From her office, I drove to the Adult Protective Services Division downtown. The building smelled like coffee and copier ink, the scent of bureaucracy and broken families. I filled out a formal elder exploitation report listing Devon and Sloane's names, the insurance talk, and the false medical entries. The woman behind the plexiglass, mid-30s, exhausted but kind, promised to open a file and forward it to the district investigator. Walking out, I felt lighter and angrier at once. Bureaucracy was slow, but paper leaves a trail. Paper cuts deep. Next stop was the Peachtree Mutual Bank branch. I'd known the manager, Priya Patel, since she was a teller with a shy smile. She'd watched Devon grow up. When she saw me approach her glass office, her face softened. "Mr. Walker. Haven't seen you in ages." "Wish I came for better reasons," I said, closing the door behind me. She motioned me to sit. "Tell me," I told her the short version. She listened without interrupting, then pulled up my account history on her monitor. Her eyes narrowed almost immediately. "Mr.
Walker, there's a recent durable power of attorney on file listing your son, Devon Walker, as your agent. Dated 2 months ago. I never signed a new one." Her lips tightened. "I thought not." She printed a copy, slid it across the desk. My name was there, my signature, perfect curls and slant, but the hand wasn't mine. Someone had practiced. "Forgery," I said, voice like gravel. "There's more," she said. "Your joint account application was recently used to verify identity for an insurance policy. Peachtree Mutual Life Value, $1.5 million, beneficiary Devon Walker. Co-signature Elaine Walker." Elaine never signed a thing. Priya looked furious now. Then someone forged her too. "I'll flag it as suspected fraud and escalate to our Special Investigations Unit. They'll contact the insurer's SIU. You'll need to verify all your accounts in person. Today." We spent the next hour printing statements, freezing profiles, and changing access credentials. By the end, there was a mountain of paperwork stacked between us, a paper knife sharp enough to cut through the lies. Before I left, Priya placed a gentle hand on my forearm. "Mr. Walker, I'm too sorry. I know your family." "Yeah," I said quietly. "So did I." By the time I stepped outside, the sun was high and merciless. Downtown Atlanta hummed with traffic and heat. My shirt stuck to my back. I felt the weight of every mile I'd ever driven the routes, the faces, the long hours spent believing hard work could protect you from betrayal. I sat in my car, stared at my hands on the steering wheel. They still looked steady, but inside something twisted and ached deep and cold. Devon hadn't just been stealing money, he'd been laying the foundation to erase us. Piece by piece. Doctor's notes, bank forms, signatures, a quiet murder built on paper. The phone rang. Devon. I let it buzz twice before I answered. "Hey, Pops." His voice was too bright, too casual. The kind of cheer that hides a question. "How you doing? Mom said you had errands today. Just running around," I said. "Good, good. You didn't get turned around on I-20 again, did you?" That last line landed soft, but it carried a knife. He was testing me, seeing if the memory loss lie had taken root. I made myself chuckle. "Not yet. GPS still works." He laughed, relieved maybe, or pretending to be. "All right then. Looking forward to dinner tonight. Sloane's already got plans. Hope you're hungry." "I'll be ready," I said. We hung up. I sat there in the car, listening to the silence, heartbeat thudding in my ears. I realized I wasn't scared anymore. Not exactly. Fear had turned into something cleaner, harder. They thought they were writing my obituary. What they didn't know was I'd just started writing the case file that would bury them instead. By dusk, the sky had that bruised Atlanta purple that comes before a storm.
Cicadas were screaming in the pines, and somewhere down the street, a dog barked like it knew what was coming. Elaine stood at the window, arms folded, eyes on the driveway. "She'll come right on a schedule," she said. "She's the type that plans her lies by the minute." She was right. At 7:02 p.m., Sloane's Lexus turned the corner headlights, washing across our porch like a searchlight. I'd been expecting it, the timing, the sound, even the faint perfume cloud that seemed to follow her everywhere. I opened the door before she knocked. "Evening, sweetheart. Hey, Dad." She sang, that honeyed voice perfectly measured. She held up the iPhone like a trophy. "Just wanted to thank you again. You're a lifesaver." The words hit the air like static, too sweet, too easy. Behind her smile, I saw calculation. She was scanning the entryway, eyes flicking from countertop to cabinet to the hallway beyond.
Not admiring, assessing. Elaine came in from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a towel. "You look tired, baby. Long day." "Oh, just the usual. Clients, calls, chaos." Sloane gave a little laugh. "You two should really think about slowing down, you know. This house must be a lot to manage. You could sell it, move into a nice condo in Midtown, something low maintenance." I smiled just enough to hide the chill creeping up my spine. "Funny, that's exactly what your husband said." She blinked once fast, then recovered. "Devin worries about you both. Especially with everything going on with memory. You know, Mom, Elaine getting confused sometimes." Elaine's expression didn't change. "Confused," she said lightly. "The only thing I'm confused about is why folks keep saying that." Sloane laughed again, quick and brittle. "I just meant there's this new memory center, really lovely place, specializes in older adults who need, support." I leaned on the doorframe.
"You suggesting I drop my wife off somewhere, Sloane?" Her eyes widened, all innocence. "No, of course not, Dad. Just thinking of options." "You always were thoughtful." I kept my tone easy, but I could feel Elaine stiffen beside me. The air between us had turned to glass, fragile, transparent, sharp. Sloane shifted her purse strap, her gaze darting toward the kitchen again. She never once turned her back on that room like someone afraid of being watched. Her left hand brushed the counter near the coffee maker fingertips, leaving faint prints. I clocked it every move. "Well," she said, bright again, "I'll let you rest. Devin's got some things to finish, but we'll see you both tomorrow. We can bring a nice bottle and make dinner. How's that?" I smiled slow. "Tell you what, we'll handle dinner. You just bring that nice bottle. Sunday, 7 o'clock. A flicker crossed her face, surprise, maybe even annoyance, but she covered it quick. "Perfect," she said. "You're too kind." When she finally left, the air felt clean again. I locked the door, then stood there listening to her car fade down the street. Elaine's voice broke the silence. She was casing the place. "Yep, checking layout, sightlines, what's on the counters. Maybe looking for meds." Elaine shook her head, disbelief etched deep. She never even blinked at the word confused, like she'd already written the script. "She has," I said. "But we're gonna rewrite it." An hour later, there was a soft knock. Ms. Ruth stood on the porch in her robe and slippers, hair wrapped tight in a scarf. She didn't bother with small talk. "Silas, your boy's car's been round this block twice this week. Parked near the hydrant at midnight last night. Lights off. Figured you ought to know." Elaine appeared behind me. "Are you sure it was Devin's?" Ms. Ruth gave her a look that could melt paint. "Honey, I may be old, but I ain't blind. I know that black Charger anywhere. And if he's prowling this late, it ain't for no family visit." She lowered her voice. "Y'all need to be careful. Folks do crazy things for money." I thanked her, promised we were fine, but when she left, the porch light suddenly felt like a spotlight. Devin circling our house at midnight, the son who used to play ball in that very driveway now plotting like a thief in the night. Elaine's hand found mine. "We need to prepare." And we did. We started with the medicine cabinet. Every bottle, blood pressure, vitamins, Tylenol out. Anything open or unsealed went in a shoebox marked trash. Elaine wiped down the shelves twice, then hid her actual meds in a locked recipe tin in the freezer right behind the frozen peaches. If Sloane or Devin wanted to play chemistry, they'd come up empty. Next, the cameras. I drove to Walmart, bought a cheap nanny cam shaped like a digital clock. Didn't look like much, but it streamed straight to my phone. We set it up on the hutch facing the dining table. I'd positioned my share of mirrors and safety glass in my day. A little concealment was second nature. Elaine tested the feed. "Works fine," she said. "We'll keep it rolling through dinner." We rehearsed our plan like actors learning lines. Where we'd sit, what we'd say, which dishes we'd use, nothing already opened, nothing prepped before they arrived. I'd even switched the wine glasses with two I'd bought new that morning, still sealed in plastic. Then the safe word. Elaine suggested peaches. If either of us said it, no matter how casual it sounded, it meant stop eating, stop drinking, get out. We ran through it again and again until it felt natural. And then the silence came, that heavy silence that fills a house when you know someone's planning to invade it. It was close to midnight when my phone buzzed. No name, unknown number, one message, a photo. I stared at the screen our house shot from the street. The porch light on, curtains drawn, the kind of shot you take when you're close enough to breathe the same air. Beneath it a text, "See you tomorrow. Let's toast to family." Elaine saw my face pale and reached for the phone. When she read it, her lips pressed tight. "They're watching," she whispered. "Let 'em watch," I said. "We're ready." But inside my pulse hammered like a war drum, because whoever sent that message wasn't just promising a visit. They were marking the house like a grave. Sunday evening smelled like roasted chicken and nerves. Elaine had been cooking since noon, not because either of us was hungry, but because the scent of thyme and butter made the house feel steady normal. The storm outside had finally broken, thunder rolling over Atlanta like a slow drumbeat. We were ready. The table was set. The nanny cam's little red light winked from the hutch, almost invisible behind a bowl of fake lemons. My old digital recorder, the one I'd used back when I ran union meetings, sat under the dining table, live and listening. At 6:59, the black Charger rolled up the drive. "Showtime," Elaine whispered. I opened the door before they could knock. Devin and Sloane looked like they'd stepped off a magazine cover, him in a navy sport coat, her in pearls that glowed against her skin. He carried a tall bottle of Cabernet. She held a gold-ribboned box of chocolates. "Hey, Pops," Devin grinned. "Smells incredible in here." Sloane kissed the air beside my cheek. "We brought your favorites. Napa Reserve limited release. You can't get it outside California." "Well, look at y'all," I said, smiling the way a chess player does before taking a pawn. "Come on in." Elaine took the chocolates, thanked them, and offered iced tea, sweet, cold, harmless. "Let's save the wine for later," she said lightly. "Sure," Devin said, though I saw the faintest twitch of disappointment. We sat, we prayed, we ate. Conversation started small, weather traffic, the Falcons. It could have passed for a family Sunday if not for the way Sloane's eyes kept drifting around the room, noting every cabinet and countertop, or how Devin's leg bounced under the table like a metronome wound too tight. Halfway through dinner, Sloane laid her fork down, smile sharp as glass. "You know, Mom, Devin and I were talking. With all these medical bills and, well, getting older, it might be smart to put some things in writing. You know, a power of attorney, just for emergencies."
Elaine dabbed her mouth with her napkin.
"For our protection." "Exactly," Sloane said, voice sweet. "If something ever happened, stroke, fall, memory issues, it'd make things easier." Devin jumped in smoothly. "We'd never want to interfere, Pops. Just help. Maybe even move in for a while, keep the place up, make sure you two are taken care of." I leaned back, pretending to consider it. "That's thoughtful of you, son," he smiled, relieved. "But funny thing," I said, setting down my fork, "we already took care of all that. Hired a new estate attorney named Alicia Monroe downtown. Real sharp. She's been cleaning up our old paperwork, updating everything. Even the beneficiaries." The flicker hit Devin's eyes like a camera flash, quick but unmistakable. His smile froze. "Changes? What kind of changes?" "Oh, just making sure everything's in order," I said casually. "You know how it is. You work hard your whole life. You want to leave things tidy." Alicia says it's best to review things every few years, especially insurance. Sloane's laugh came too fast. Of course. That's so smart. I keep telling Devin we should revisit our will. Elaine chuckled softly. Well, y'all are young. You've got time. The air in the room shifted, the kind of quiet that hums when people are doing math in their heads. We ate the rest of dinner talking about nothing, church gossip, grocery prices, the Braves, but I could feel their eyes on us, recalculating, regrouping. When the plates were cleared, Devin stood stretching. That Cabernet's calling my name, he said. He carried the bottle to the kitchen knife already in hand to cut the foil. Elaine followed to grab dessert plates. I trailed behind, slow, pretending to check the oven. I watched him pull the cork smooth, practiced. He poured 4 glasses, rich red and heavy with promise. Don't you go thinking we can't handle a little good wine, I said with a grin. Never said that, Pops. He turned to reach for something on the counter, a perfect moment. While his back was turned, I slid 2 pre-poured glasses from behind the fruit bowl. The same shape, same weight, filled earlier with wine from a safe bottle Elaine had opened that morning. I switched them out in one smooth motion. When Devin turned back, everything looked untouched. We carried the glasses in. I handed one to Elaine, one to Sloane, kept one for myself, and left Devin's last on the table, just as he'd poured it. To family, I said. We clinked. We pretended to sip. The taste was fine, our safe bottle, not whatever chemistry experiment he'd brought. Sloane smiled, all dimples and deceit. To family. The recorder under the table blinked its tiny red eye, catching every word. Conversation turned syrupy after that. Devin reminisced about childhood road trips. Sloane gushed about her firm's big client win. Elaine played along beautifully, her laugh as easy as it used to be before the lies. But I was watching the edges. The micro tells. The way Sloane's nails tapped her glass 3 times when she glanced toward the kitchen. The way Devin kept reaching into his jacket pocket, thumb grazing something metal. He was wound tight as a cable. When dessert came, Elaine's lemon pie. Devin leaned down, like adjusting his napkin. His hand slid beneath the table. A faint click. I saw the movement reflected in the silver frame of the photo, across from me, a perfect mirror. He straightened, all smiles again. Man, Mom, you still make that crust from scratch. Always. Elaine said, steady as stone. We ate, we laughed, we lied. But I couldn't stop thinking about that little motion under the table. The subtle drop of his hand, the sound no one else seemed to hear. After they left, hugs, fake laughter, promises of another dinner soon, I crouched beneath the table with a flashlight. It didn't take long to find it, a small black device no bigger than a car key. A red LED winked once, then died. Elaine knelt beside me, whispering, "What is it?" "Not sure," I said, pocketing it carefully. Could be a recorder, could be a tracker, could be both. She looked toward the window where the Charger's taillights vanished into the dark. "They're not done, Silas," she said. "No," I murmured, closing my hand around the little black device. "But neither are we." Outside, thunder rolled again, low, distant, and coming closer. By sunrise Monday, Elaine and I were already parked outside Alicia Monroe's office in Midtown. The air smelled like wet asphalt and panic, but inside, I was all steel. No shaking, no anger, just focus. Alicia was younger than I expected, 39, maybe 40, all sharp suit, sharper eyes. She listened without interrupting, scrolling through the photos on my phone. The text thread Javi had found, Dr. Chen's addendum, Priya Patel's forged paperwork, every detail in order. When I finished, she leaned back, tapping her pen. "Mr. Walker, what you've got here is a tapestry of intent," she said. "Medical manipulation, financial forgery, potential poisoning, all pointing to a coordinated plan. We're not just talking family drama. This is attempted elder exploitation and possibly attempted homicide." Elaine flinched at the word homicide. "I didn't," Alicia continued, crisp as a news anchor. "Here's what we do. I'll file to revoke any existing or implied power of attorney, effective immediately. We'll also request a temporary protective order under Georgia's elder abuse statute. That keeps your son and daughter-in-law at least 500 feet from you until further notice." She opened a new document, typing as she talked. Her fingers flew. Next, we hand all corroborated materials to the district attorney's elder abuse unit. They'll liaise with Atlanta PD Major Crimes for physical evidence support, meaning surveillance monitoring and protective oversight. You've already got partial recordings. They'll make them chain of custody legal. Elaine sat straight, her voice steady. And what happens when they come back, they will. Alicia's expression softened, but her words stayed sharp. Then we let them dig their own grave on video. She called someone a Detective Cooper APD, and within an hour, 2 plainclothes officers met us at the house.
They worked quiet and professional like men who'd done this before. One handled the paperwork, the other unpacked a black case lined with cables and cameras. Covert surveillance, Mr. Walker, Cooper said. 3 points, living room, kitchen, rear entrance. Motion-activated 1080p direct feed to our unit downtown. You'll have mirror access on your phone. He pointed to a wine bottle sealed in evidence tape. We're setting a bait bottle in your pantry, identical to the one your son brought. Marked logged and traceable, and if anyone tampers with it, it'll show fingerprints, residue, and video proof. Elaine nodded, voice tight. You expect them to come back? I'd bet my pension, Cooper said. These folks don't stop at almost. By afternoon, the house had eyes, tiny lenses hidden in clock radio's vents and that fake fern Elaine always hated. The officers did one last sweep, tested feeds on a tablet, and handed me a card. This number rings straight to me, Cooper said. If there's movement, we'll get the alert too, but I'd rather you be somewhere else for now. Already planned, I said. Pastor Reggie had offered us a safe place, a midtown hotel registered under his name. He'd even checked in ahead of us, leaving the key under a Bible at the front desk. When we arrived, the clerk never blinked, just slid the envelope across the counter like any other reservation. We rode the elevator up in silence. Elaine clutched her tote with the same grip she used on the hymnal during funerals. Inside the room, I shut the curtains tight. The city buzzed below sirens' horns, the far hum of MARTA trains. I used to drive those routes. Funny how small Atlanta feels when you're trying to disappear inside it. Elaine sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the muted TV. You think they'll come tonight? I check my phone live feed app, open cameras online. If they think we're home, yeah. They'll come.
She nodded, whispering. Then let the devil step on his own trap. Evening sank slow. I couldn't eat. Elaine picked at her salad, eyes flicking between the TV and the phone screen on the nightstand. Nothing yet, just the still image of our quiet kitchen counters, wiped clean, the fake wine bottle gleaming under the low light. At 9:47, the motion sensor blinked red. The feed jumped alive, grainy at first, then clear. Movement detected, kitchen. I leaned in, holding my breath. A shape slipped through the back door, tall, lean, wearing a dark hoodie. Could have been any man. But then he turned slightly toward the fridge light, and I saw it, that walk. That slouch-shouldered, overconfident strut I'd watched since he was 16. Devin, my own son. He carried 2 grocery bags, setting them down soft on the counter. The camera zoomed just enough to catch his face, focus blank. He moved with practiced calm, checking corners like a man who thought he was invisible. Elaine's hand found mine. Oh, Lord. Shh. We watched as he unpacked the bags, a bottle of wine, same Napa Cabernet, a pack of batteries, cleaning wipes, latex gloves. He worked fast, unscrewing the bait bottle's cap with a rag, pouring a clear liquid inside from a small vial. Then he wiped everything down, meticulous. My pulse hammered, slow and dangerous. The timestamp on the feed read 9:52 p.m. He finished, placed the bottle back exactly where it had been, and straightened his shirt like a man proud of a job well done. Then, before leaving, he reached under the dining table, same place as before, and adjusted something. Probably another device. He paused, once head cocked, listening, then slipped out the back door, gone into the night. Elaine's breath came shaky. You got it all. Every second, I said. I saved the file twice, uploaded it to the secure cloud link Alicia had set up. My thumb hovered over Detective Cooper's number. You gonna call? Elaine asked. Not yet, I said, staring at the still image frozen on my screen, that bait bottle glinting like a snake coiled in glass. Let's give him the rope he wants. Because now it wasn't just suspicion, it was evidence. And soon it would be arrest. They caught him at 2:12 p.m. on a Tuesday. But the real capture happened hours earlier when Atlanta PD sat in their dark monitoring room and watched my son try to murder me in high definition. Detective Cooper called at dawn. "Mr. Walker," he said, "we've got movement again. You might want to see this." Elaine and I drove straight to APD headquarters, escorted through a side entrance. The surveillance room was small, humming with machines. A dozen monitors glowed in the dim, each one showing a different angle of our house, kitchen, dining room, living room, back door. The same home I built with overtime pay and borrowed dreams. On the center screen, Devin moved through it like he owned the place. He wore gloves this time, surgical blue, and carried a small zippered kit. He started in the kitchen, quiet and deliberate, opening the medicine cabinet like he'd done it 100 times.
One by one, he unscrewed pill bottles, mine, Elaine's, swapping out labels and pills with identical replacements
From his kit. Dr. Chen's warning echoed in my head. They'll document cognitive decline. They'll make it look medical. Devin wasn't guessing. He knew what he was doing. Next, he pulled a folded plastic bag from his pocket, tore it open, and poured a fine white powder into the Cabernet, the same bait bottle we'd logged under chain of custody. He shook it lightly, then wiped the rim clean with a microfiber cloth. The camera zoomed in, capturing every movement. Cooper leaned forward, eyes hard. "You're looking at felony poison tampering and premeditated attempt. We'll get composition confirmation once the lab's done." I said nothing, just watched. When Devin finished, he crouched again under the table and planted another small device identical to the one we'd found last time. The tech beside Cooper whistled low. Wi-Fi mic cam combo. Streams audio and video to a remote drive. They've been listening this whole time. My chest went cold. "So they heard us, not anymore," Cooper said. "We pulled the signal last night. Everything from here on out belongs to us." On the screen, Devin straightened up, scanned the room one last time, and exhaled. That same quiet satisfaction, that little nod of self-approval I'd seen when he was a kid finishing a test early. Then he left. The silence afterward felt heavier than any sound. An hour later, forensics confirmed what we already knew. The wine contained oleandrin, the toxin from the oleander plant, and traces of benzodiazepines. Mixed together, it was a silent killer, the kind that wouldn't leave bruises or questions. For someone with high blood pressure, Cooper said, glancing at Elaine, this combo would look like a stroke or heart attack. Peaceful, quick. Elaine didn't blink. She just asked, "When can you stop him?" "Right now," he said. The warrants hit before noon. APD split into two teams, one headed to our house, the other to Sloane's office at her boutique wealth management firm. Cooper let me and Elaine stay in a back viewing room close enough to hear the radio chatter, but far from the action. At 2:12 p.m., the feed came through. Devin standing in our kitchen again, this time holding a grocery bag. The front door exploded inward, the sound so sharp even through the speaker I felt it in my teeth. Atlanta police hands where we can see them. Devin froze. The bag dropped, bottles clattering, rolling across the tile. He didn't fight, just raised his hands slow like someone caught cheating on a test he thought was ungraded. "Devin Walker, you are under arrest for attempted murder, attempted exploitation of an elder person, and multiple counts of fraud." Cooper's voice boomed from off-screen. "You have the right to remain silent." But Devin wasn't silent. He kept saying, "It wasn't supposed to go this way. It was supposed to be peaceful." Sloane's arrest came 30 minutes later. She was all polish until they clicked the cuffs. Then she cracked, snarling, "He's the one who handled the details. He wanted it more than I did." "Guess they'll have time to argue about it later," Cooper said dryly. Elaine sat very still beside me. Her hands were clasped in her lap, knuckles pale. When I reached over, she didn't flinch, just leaned into me the way she did 40 years ago when we waited for Devin to be born. Back then, we'd prayed for his heartbeat. Now we prayed for the strength to face what his had become. Hours passed. Statements, signatures, chain of custody confirmations. Then Cooper came back with a folder. "We're running full tox panels for you both just to be thorough. Standard after any chemical exposure case." He looked at me longer than usual before he added, "Mr. Walker, we already got your results." Something in his tone made my stomach tighten. He opened the folder. "You've got trace oleandrin levels in your hair and blood. Not enough to make you sick yet, but it means you've been micro-dosed, likely through food or drink." "Over weeks," Elaine gasped. "He's already been poisoning him," Cooper nodded grimly. "Probably small amounts enough to build confusion, mimic early dementia. That's why the reports made sense on paper. They were manufacturing symptoms." I leaned back in the chair. The room swayed for a second, then steadied. It wasn't just a plan anymore. It had already started. All those mornings when my coffee tasted faintly bitter. The headaches I blamed on heat. The dizziness I laughed off. He'd been testing the dosage, practicing, on me. Elaine covered her mouth, trembling. "You could have died, Silas." "Could have," I said quietly, but didn't. Cooper shut the folder. "You won't now. They're both in custody. You're safe. Safe." I'd forgotten what that word felt like. That night, back at the hotel, Elaine fell asleep, sitting up her head against my shoulder. I stared out at the city lights through the rain-streaked window. My son was in a cell, my name was in a police report under victim, and my blood, my literal blood, carried the evidence of his crime. The world didn't tilt or crumble, it just went quiet. I touched the side of my neck where I used to feel the pulse of pride every time I said his name. Now there was only the slow, heavy thud of something else. Not hate, not grief, just the hollow certainty of a father who finally understood how deep betrayal can run right down to the bone. Outside, a siren wailed, fading into the distance. And for the first time in weeks, I whispered a prayer, not for justice, not for revenge, but for mercy. For me, for Elaine, maybe even for him. Because somewhere buried under all that poison and ambition, there had once been my boy. And now there was only the evidence.
Atlanta woke up hungry for blood. By sunrise, our story was on every news crawl and talk show. Local wealth advisor husband charged in elder exploitation and attempted murder plot. They used our photos, blurred our faces, and still managed to make it sound like gossip. The kind of story that makes strangers shake their heads while stirring cream into coffee.
Elaine turned off the TV halfway through. I can't watch them chew it like entertainment. "Let them talk," I said. "They're late to the truth." She didn't answer. She was staring out the hotel window, hands wrapped around her tea mug like it was the only solid thing left. By noon, Alicia Monroe arrived with 2 cups of black coffee and a folder that looked heavier than she was. She dropped it on the table. "It's getting wider." "How wide?" I asked. She flipped the folder open. Inside, a driver's license photo, Sloane's smile but under a different name. Harper Lane, El Paso, Texas. Before she was Sloane Ellis. Alicia said she was Harper Lane, changed her name 6 years ago. Elaine frowned. Why? Alicia tapped a report. Her guardian and uncle named Richard Lane died suddenly. Official cause, cardiac arrest. No autopsy, no heirs besides Harper. The modest estate went straight to her. DPS records show she filed for a legal name change 3 months later. Case closed. No foul play noted. She paused, then added quietly. But my contact at DPS, a church friend's cousin, says the investigator on that file retired early. The death never sat right with him. Meaning, I asked. Meaning the DA's office in El Paso just reopened it. For a while, nobody said anything. You could hear the hotel's air conditioner rattle in the silence. Elaine whispered, "She's done this before." Alicia nodded. "Seems likely." The MO fits: target an older relative, manipulate trust, create a paper trail of concern, and then remove the obstacle. My stomach twisted. "And my son looks like he was the next partner in the cycle," Alicia said. Only this time she built the perfect accomplice, young, ambitious, easily steered by guilt and greed. But make no mistake, Mr. Walker, she's the architect. Later that afternoon, Detective Cooper called. "Silas, you sitting down. Go ahead." Ms. Ruth dropped by the station. "Said something you might want to hear." I smiled for the first time that day. If Ruth Simmons said it, you better listen. Cooper chuckled. She told us about Sloane trimming her garden late at night, said she thought it was odd seeing her in gloves and a hoodie, snipping flowers in the dark. Elaine and I exchanged a look. Oleander bingo. Cooper said, "We checked the property line neighbor's ornamental oleander bush was hacked to hell. Forensics already matched the leaf residue to the toxin in your wine." He whistled low. "She didn't even have to buy poison, just pruned it from the yard."
Elaine whispered, "That woman used the Lord's creation to kill his children." The next morning, the DA's office was chaos. The case was moving faster than anyone expected. Forensics finished bank records, confirmed medical notes authenticated. The evidence was airtight, or so we thought. Then Alicia walked in with that look lawyers get when they've just been ambushed by a loophole. "Devon's attorney is pushing for a plea," she said. 15 years, no trial, full cooperation." Elaine stiffened. Cooperation for what? To protect her? Alicia shook her head. "No, to blame her. According to Devon, Sloane planned it all. She told me it would be peaceful, said she'd handled it before. He claimed he was manipulated, brainwashed, scared of losing her." Typical, a coward's script. But before the DA could even review the offer, another call came in, this one from El Paso. The reopened case had turned up new evidence, traces of oleander in Richard Lane's system preserved in tissue samples. The state coroner officially reclassified his death as suspicious. That was enough to freeze every plea deal in its tracks. Alicia leaned back, smiling cold. Sloane's past just caught up to her present. That night we drove back to the neighborhood. The police tape was gone, but the air still smelled like latex and memory. Ms. Ruth was waiting on her porch Bible in one hand, flashlight in the other. "Told you God don't let weeds bloom forever," she said. "That woman's soul was poison, same as that flower." "Thank you, Ruth," I said quietly. She studied me for a long moment. "You ain't smiling, Silas. Hard to smile when it's your boy's name on the warrant, even if he earned it." She nodded. "Maybe so, but sometimes mercy comes wearing a badge." 2 days later, Alicia called again. Her voice carried that mix of triumph and warning. "Silas, she's flipping." My stomach dropped. "Who? Sloane. She's cutting a deal, says she'll testify against Devon in exchange for reduced charges." Elaine snatched the phone, voice trembling. "Testify to what?" Alicia hesitated. "According to her statement, Devon planned to poison you both, and then solve the Sloane problem." Elaine's breath caught. "Solve?" She claims he intended to kill her too, Alicia said. "Once he inherited everything. Full control, no witnesses." I felt something shift inside me. Not shock, not even anger, just the quiet recognition that evil eats its own, eventually. Elaine whispered. "So that's her story now, for now," Alicia said. "But we'll let the evidence decide who wrote the ending." When the call ended, Elaine sat on the bed, head bowed, eyes wet. "All that love, Silas. All those years we tried to raise a good man." I wrapped my arms around her shoulders. "We did, baby. We raised him right. He just chose wrong." She looked up at me, jaw tight. "You think I should hate him?" "No," I said softly. "That'd make us like them. We'll let the law handle hate. We'll keep the rest." Outside, rain began to fall again, tapping against the window like small, steady knocks. I closed my eyes and listened, not to the sound of guilt, not to the whisper of justice, but to the rhythm of something older. Survival. Because no matter how much poison they'd poured into our lives, we were still here, breathing, and the story wasn't over yet. Courts have their own kind of weather. Some days are all heat reporters swarming, tempers high, the air thick with noise. Other days, like the first day of Devon's hearing, it's all gray, the kind of stillness before a storm that doesn't flash, only crushes slow. Elaine and I sat together on the hard oak bench of Fulton County Superior Court, hands folded back straight. I wore the same suit I'd worn to my retirement dinner 10 years ago. It didn't fit quite right anymore. Maybe it was me who'd changed shape. Up front, Judge Mary Carruthers adjusted her glasses, reading through motions. Alicia sat 2 rows ahead, flanked by a state prosecutor and a stack of folders thick as bricks.
Defense had already tried to bury the case before it saw daylight, claiming the phone screenshots were illegally obtained. But Alicia was ready. She laid out the evidence chain like a surgeon exposing the truth. The APD surveillance videos lawfully recorded with warrant.
Forensic analysis of the wine and pills confirming oleandrin and benzodiazepines. Bank records and the forged power of attorney authenticated by Priya Patel. SIU reports from the insurer. And Dr. Chen's addendum proving Devon fabricated cognitive decline reports. The screenshots weren't needed anymore. The lie had collapsed under its own weight. The judge's ruling came clean and simple. Motion to exclude denied. The state's evidence is overwhelming and admissible. Outside, you could almost hear the storm break. The charges read like a list of wounds: criminal attempt to murder, exploitation of an elder person, forgery, insurance fraud, conspiracy. Each word landed like a stone dropped in water. No drama, just the ripples. Devon sat at the defense table in a county jumpsuit, hair shorter, shoulders slumped. Sloane sat separate in a navy blazer that couldn't hide the cracks in her confidence. Her El Paso file had burned through the courtroom like a slow match. She wasn't the slick wealth advisor anymore, just another predator caught in her own web. Elaine didn't look at them. I did. I had to. When the state called me to the stand, the courtroom went quiet. Alicia warned me beforehand, be factual, be calm, don't give them spectacle. So I told it plain. How Javi fixed that broken phone, how I saw the texts, how Elaine and I pretended calm, documented everything, and waited. How Devon broke into our home and poured poison meant to look like mercy. I didn't cry, didn't raise my voice, just told the truth piece by piece until it was all there, ugly, complete, impossible to twist. At one point, the defense tried to shake me. Mr. Walker, the lawyer, said you expect this court to believe your son, your own blood, intended to murder you. I looked him dead in the eye. No, sir, I don't expect belief. I expect the evidence to speak louder than my heartbreak. The judge paused her note-taking almost like she needed a breath. That's when I knew we'd already won. Not vengeance, not triumph, just the slow, solid return of truth. 2 weeks later, the verdicts came. Devon took a plea package, 25 years state parole eligible after 18. Sloane took a harsher deal once El Paso's reopened file came down the pipeline. 28 years, no parole. Their lawyers spun the usual lines about regret, mental manipulation, coercion. But the facts were harder than sympathy. When it ended, the judge asked if I had anything to say. I stood up, looked at both of them and said, I'm not here for punishment. I'm here because you tried to write the end of my story without asking the author. You don't get to end my life. I do. Devon lowered his head, shoulders trembling. Sloane didn't move. A week later, Alicia arranged a visit. County lockup. Elaine didn't come, said she'd made her peace. But I needed to see him one last time without walls of lawyers between us. They led me into a narrow interview room with a glass divider. Devon shuffled in cuffs, clinking orange jumpsuit hanging loose. He looked smaller, not just thinner, but emptied out. He picked up the phone on his side. I picked up mine. For a moment, neither of us spoke, just the hum of the fluorescent light. Finally, he said, Dad, I don't know what to say. You could start with sorry, I said. I am. I swear. He swallowed hard. Sloane made it sound easy, like it wasn't killing you, just speeding up what was coming. She didn't twist your arm, Devon. You had a choice. He stared at his cuffed hands. Yeah, I know. I made all the wrong ones. The silence that followed wasn't forgiveness. It was finality. Before they called time, he said, I've been taking paralegal classes in here. Maybe I can help people someday, like Ms. Monroe helped you. I almost smiled. Almost. Do that, I said. But remember, helping ain't the same as healing. Healing's your own work. The guard tapped the glass. Time was up. Devon pressed his palm to the divider. For a second, I almost lifted mine. Almost. Then I turned and walked out. Sentencing day came hot and bright.
After the gavel fell, after the cuffs clicked and the deputies led them away, I walked down those courthouse steps with Elaine beside me. For the first time in months, the air felt like air again. Reporters shouted questions, cameras flashed. We kept walking, and then I saw him, Javi Morales, standing off to the side in his work uniform, grease on his sleeves, holding a small brown paper bag. When he saw me, he gave a shy nod like he wasn't sure he belonged there. Inside the bag was a pair of brand new phone cases, black leather sturdy. Figured you could use something that doesn't crack easy, he said. I laughed, the first real laugh in a long while. You saved more than a phone, Javi.
He shrugged, just fixed what was broke. Elaine slipped her arm through mine. So did we, baby, she said softly. We walked past the crowd into the sunlight, free but not the same. Freedom after fire doesn't feel light. It feels earned, heavy, sacred. The courthouse doors closed behind us, sealing away the echo of chains. Ahead waited silence, peace, and the long, slow work of living again. 5 years changes a man. Not just his face, the way the lines cut deeper, but his pulse, his rhythm, the quiet behind his thoughts. I'm 65 now, retired. Elaine and I sold the old house a year after the trial and moved into a smaller brick apartment off Ralph David Abernathy Boulevard down in the West End. You can hear the bells from Greater Hope Baptist every Sunday and the trains at night if the windows are open. It's not fancy, but it's home, clean, safe, alive. We kept what mattered, our wedding photo, Elaine's mama's quilt, and the porch chairs we've carried through 3 moves. Everything else we let go. Turns out peace doesn't take much room. Every Wednesday morning I volunteer at Safe Silver Atlanta, a nonprofit that helps seniors spot and fight financial exploitation. We run workshops, teach folks how to check credit reports, how to freeze accounts, how to say no with their whole chest.
Sometimes I stand at the front of the community center with a slideshow and tell the truth about what happened to me. Not the headlines, not the TV story, but the human version. See, they don't always come in wearing ski masks, I tell the room. Sometimes they come with hugs and good credit. Sometimes they carry your last name. You can feel the air shift when I say that. People sit up straighter, not slow, because they know the danger ain't always outside the door. Sometimes it's inside, smiling. Afterward, folks line up to talk. They share stories, nieces taking over bank cards, sons pushing signatures on papers they can't read, daughters-in-law whispering about memory tests. And every time I tell them, document, speak. Don't let love be a muzzle. It's the closest thing I've found to redemption, not forgiveness maybe, but usefulness. Elaine runs the kitchen team at Pastor Reggie's Watch Your Paper ministry, a small but mighty group we started with the church after the trial. The name came from something Reggie said during one of his sermons. The devil might not steal your soul, but he'll sure steal your signature if you let him. We meet twice a month, mostly older folks, to swap stories, help each other read mail check accounts, and call out scams before they take root. Ms. Ruth, bless her heart, chairs the meetings like a senator. She's 80 now, sharp as a tack, still rocking her usher's gloves. Every time she bangs her Bible on the table to make a point, people listen. Don't tell me about miracles, she says. Tell me about balance sheets. Even Pastor Reggie laughs at that. I was nervous about speaking in public again after everything, but Alicia kept pushing. Use your voice, Mr. Walker, she'd tell me. You survive for a reason. So when City Hall debated the new Guardianship Accountability Act, I went. Stood at the podium in my Sunday shoes, heart hammering but voice steady. My name's Silas Walker, I told the council. I'm not a lawyer. I'm just a man who almost lost his life because somebody thought my age made me easy to erase. I talked about the paper trail, the forged signatures, the false reports, the poison dressed up as protection. I told them what I'd learned, that dignity doesn't come from pity. It comes from agency. When I finished, people stood up and clapped. Not because I was special, but because they saw themselves in the story. That bill passed 2 months later. Alicia called me the day it did. You're officially in the minutes, Silas, she said, laughing. Part of Georgia law now. This summer, Elaine and I celebrated 40 years of marriage in our tiny backyard behind the apartment. It was more potluck than party, folding tables, paper plates, a grill Javi borrowed from his cousin. Javi handled the cooking, still wearing that same grease-stained apron from his shop. He's got a fiancée now, sweet girl named Maritza, who teaches kindergarten. He tells folks he learned detective skills from me, though I remind him he's the one who saved our lives. Ms. Ruth sat under a wide-brimmed hat holding court with her sweet tea and gossiping about everyone's potato salad. Pastor Reggie said grace with his booming voice, thanking God for the storms that prune and the roots that hold. And Alicia showed up last, balancing her toddler on one hip, that sharp lawyer smile softened by motherhood. When I saw her, I almost teared up. "You got shorter," I teased. "No," she said, smiling. "You just got taller in my eyes." We laughed, and for the first time in years, it felt like the world wasn't heavy, just warm. As the evening cooled, we moved to the stoop out front. Fireflies flickered near the fence, and somewhere down the block, a trumpet practiced the same blues riff over and over. Elaine leaned against me, her fingers laced with mine. Her hair's silver now, soft as ash, and when the streetlight hits her right, she looks like every good thing that ever happened to me. She sighed, content. 40 years, Silas. Can you believe it? Not sure I'd believe any of it, I said, but I'm sure glad I lived it. She smiled. We ain't just survivors. I grinned, finishing her thought. We're living. We sat like that for a while, watching the city hum and breathe, feeling the night settle soft around us. That's when my phone buzzed in my pocket, a single text from an unknown number. "I'm trying to be better, Dad. No name, no emojis, just that." I stared at it a long time. Elaine saw the light on my screen and asked softly, "Devin?" I nodded, then I locked the phone, slipped it back in my pocket. "I'll answer when I'm ready." She didn't press. Just squeezed my hand tighter. We stayed there till the fireflies dimmed and the street went quiet. Two old souls who'd been broken and rebuilt by love, loss, and grace. The city hummed like a heartbeat, low and steady. And when we finally laughed, low, tired, and real, it didn't sound like survival anymore. It sounded like living. You know, folks keep asking me if I ever forgave him. Truth is, forgiveness ain't a light switch. It's a long walk in the dark, one step at a time. Some days I still wake up angry. Some nights I still dream about that phone lighting up on the counter. But I learned something. Pain can turn you bitter, or it can turn you better. Me, I chose better. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you loved, don't let it steal your peace. Take it back inch by inch and build a life so full even your scars start smiling. I'm Silas Walker, and this was my story. If it found you tonight, hit that like, subscribe, and tell me down in the comments. What would you do if the ones you raised tried to bury you? Because sometimes surviving is the loudest revenge of all.